Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapin.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
Well, we've got a great show coming up. I've got another edition of Inside Business to share.
And for the second show in a row, we're going to head back down to New Zealand to talk more New Zealand wine. That's all coming up after you watch this. Well, it's time to start the show off, and we're going to head down to New Zealand once again this week to talk about some great New Zealand wines. We'd like to welcome all the way from Auckland. What a great city it is. Hello to, we've got Charlotte Reid, who is the General Manager of Marketing for the New Zealand Wine Growers Association. Charlotte, it's early Saturday morning where you are. We want to welcome you to Our City Tonight.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
And Charlotte, Canada is the fourth largest export of New Zealand wines. Why do Canadians find New Zealand wine so fascinating?
Well, we're a long way from Canada, but I've been to Canada. I love your country, and there are many parallels between our two countries. We've got mountains, we've got sea, but we're just smaller. And our Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand is what put us on the international map. It's bursting with freshness and its lovely acidity, and it's the quality of our wines that is so consistent and value for money that I think makes us such a great wine region for Canadians to choose from.
And Lita and I were saying this to some New Zealand wine friends of ours the other night that embarrassingly, all I've ever really known is your Sauv Blanc because it's such a huge seller, as Lita said. But you've got some spectacular, diverse wines that you guys send our way, and because you've got some great areas where you grow the grapes. Can you talk about these splendid regions you've got? Not just Marlborough, but a whole bunch of different regions.
Yes, well, we're a long, skinny country, 2,000 kilometres in length. I'm from Hawke's Bay myself, New Zealand's oldest wine producing region, and we've got some amazing grape varieties there, such as Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah, so those full-bodied red varieties, whereas down in the South Island, Pinot Noir is more suited to a cool climate, and it really thrives in likes of Marlborough, Waipara, and Central Otago. And Chardonnay, which is our second most drunk white variety, that is thriving across the country with different qualities across those different regions.
And we understand the harvest just finished. You're heading into your winter months there in New Zealand. We also understand that the weather was absolutely perfect for harvest this year. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, the fantastic weather?
Yeah, well, it's been a challenging time around the world. We've been in lockdown, but the saving grace has been whilst we've been at home, our vintage, our harvest has been allowed to continue, and it's happened under beautiful blue skies. So whilst we were at home, we were enjoying that great weather, and it allowed the grapes on the vines to grab as much flavour as possible, and the resulting wines are looking to be excellent.
Charlotte, of course this is a question we can't not ask you before we let you go, and that is about just sustainability, the environment, organic. Talk about things that winemakers are addressing now that maybe didn't have to 30, 40 years ago.
New Zealand is really leading in this space, and we have had for over 20 years a certified sustainable wine growing effort. It's independently audited, and on Earth Day this year we announced that by 2050 we were going to be a net zero carbon industry. So some pretty ambitious goals there, and our winemakers and our viticulturists around New Zealand are doing incredible things in the vineyard to be very, very kind to the planet, to be sustainable for future generations.
Well, thanks, Charlotte. We have been visiting with Charlotte Reid, General Manager of Marketing for the New Zealand Wine Growers. You can find out more information about this group at www.nzwine.com. So
yeah, Charlotte, thank you. And by the way, thanks for turning us on to Pinot Gris. You make a pretty good Pinot Gris down there as well. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
He has written country anthems like Giddy Up. He has written great love songs like That's When You Know, which has over 5 million streams. He is the winner of the BC Country Music Awards Album of the Year. And in 2019, his last single that we had when we was on the show, Good Old Days, won the BC Country Music Awards Songwriter of the Year, his latest single we're going to talk about in just a minute. We are here on the set at Hubcast with, of course, Chris Buck, one of our favorites of the Chris Buck Band. We are keeping distancing here as much as we can, sir. It's good to see you. How are things?
Doing good. Back in Canada and happy to be back up here during, I guess, this time anyways.
Yeah, last time you were on the show, which was last August, of course, you were heading down to Nashville where you were, but of course, when this whole stuff happened, our Prime Minister advised everyone to come home, so you came home. Let's talk about your new single, which just started streaming. We don't have a video yet, but we do have the single. Just started streaming last week, called A Little More Time.
Yeah, interesting how it came about. I actually wrote the song over 2 years ago, and it was just a demo. We weren't going to do anything with it, and my friends and family are like, "That lyrics of that song would be a good time to release it right now to the world." And I said, well, I just sang on it, I believe, through a guitar microphone 2 years ago, and I wasn't able to get in the studio because of the coronavirus. So my producer put it all together from a work tape, basically from 2 years ago. Shout out to Jordan Orbeck. And it went online this week, and I've been getting tons of messages. It's been insane.
It's great to hear too, because every time you're on our show, of course, we're talking about you're here, but then you're off and touring and everything. That really has been put on the sidelines for the unforeseeable future, I would say, for musicians. But you guys are finding ways to get your message out there. We just had a great concert a few weeks ago. Of course, one coming up this weekend before we tape. Talk about how you're reaching out to your fans and how they're getting to you.
Well, it's amazing with social media. There's been a lot of online social media concerts happening, and staying engaged with your fans during this time has actually been quite fun, because you're not really used to doing that because you're out playing shows. But from what it's looking like, it's going to be a while till a lot of us artists are back on stage. So I'm just hunkering down and writing by Skype every day rather than down in Nashville. So
yeah. Well,
it is what it is.
And we should mention, where can people find? Of course, it's chrisbuckband.com.
Yeah.
But where can people find your latest single, for example?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify. It's online. A Little More Time's it called, and I hope that when people hear the song, it makes them think of the little things right now and the importance of family and just living in the moment, as we all obviously are going through a hard time right now. So I know it's helped a lot of people, and again, the feedback's been amazing.
Buddy, I'm very happy for you. As Lita and I say every time you're on our show, you've been doing this for a very long time, so it's good to see the success coming your way. chrisbuckband.com. It is Chris Buck, and he is our guest here on Our City tonight, and we want to thank you for coming in, pal. Best of luck. I can't wait to have a beer where we don't have to do this kind of thing.
Okay.
We're all wishing for just a little more time.
Well, he has been providing the inside scoop for us on what's going on real estate-wise here in Vancouver and in the Lower Mainland. We always do the segments with him in person, but we can't today, obviously, for obvious reasons. So we're getting Matt Kerr to join us via Skype for our next Inside Real Estate segment.
Welcome, Matt. I'm going to jump right in and get you your first question. Can you tell us a little bit about the environment out there as a realtor during this pandemic?
Yeah, I'm in my home, like most realtors in Vancouver, working from home now. The COVID-19 obviously has impacted everything, but specifically in real estate, it's definitely changed to the way that we are working. There's a lot less in-person meetings. There is health as well as engagement protocols in terms of showing properties or having buyers come and visit our listings for the protection of everybody, the buyer and the seller. We got to make sure we're doing our part. 95% of me, my team, and of course the agents in our brokerage at Stillhaven are working from home. Our office has been closed actually for some time, even since before the lockdown. We shut down shop and basically have everyone working from home now. And like we do a lot of Zoom meetings, I can tell you that. I'm doing a lot more of this than I've ever done in my life. So yeah, it's been quite
Matt,
interesting.
I guess you're always very cutting edge, online, video, that kind of stuff. Can you talk a bit about how you're reaching potential clients and how you're helping clients that want to sell and buy?
Yeah, so a lot of it is basically like this. A lot of it through Zoom or Skype or whatever medium, even through Facebook, WhatsApp, you name it. We do a lot of this now, and this is a really good way to kind of get things going. We are doing 3D tours. We're using video, which we've always sort of used, but now we're actually requiring the potential buyer to look at that stuff before they actually come in and look at one of our properties. So we're really qualifying the buyers prior to opening the doors to our listings. It's mandatory, and then so there's a health protocol. There's obviously a media protocol that they need to follow, and then there's an engagement when they're in the property protocol. And
yeah, and I guess, Matt, that really focuses things for you, eliminates looky-loos, and really gets right to the business. I imagine that's a positive for sellers and buyers.
Oh yeah, it's really good. If you run the protocol properly, you have in your listing a very qualified person that is willing to pay the price that you're asking, essentially. That's qualified to pay that price because they've been vetted up and up and up and up. You know a lot about that buyer or that other agent's client prior to them coming in terms of a real estate situation, so that you know you've got a really qualified person there. So yeah, the looky-loos and open houses are all things of the past, or at least for now.
Okay, and Matt, as we wrap up here, where can people find out a little bit more about your company?
Yeah, so it's Team Kerr, so teamkerr.ca. You can go, if you go there, you'll see an example video. We use professional floor plan and photographer and everything. So teamkerr.ca, and as well as skillhaven.com is another place to visit our brokerage and all of our agents.
Matt, thanks as always for joining us. We appreciate your insight. And as soon as this whole thing is over, Lita and I are coming over to mess up that spotless apartment of yours.
That's the only part that's clean. Right? My Vitamix was right behind me there for this right now.
Great. Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Well, we're heading back to New Zealand, and we're going to visit with the chief winemaker for Whitehaven Wineries, and that is Peter Jackson. Peter, welcome to our city tonight.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Peter, before we get to Whitehaven, and we're going to talk about them, let's talk a little bit about you. I love the stories where I hear a guy's going to be a lawyer. He goes away for a year off to do some traveling, goes to France, tastes some great wines, comes home and says, I don't want to go near law anymore. I want to make wine. Briefly give us a little background on yourself before we get to Whitehaven.
Yeah, well, you've pretty well nailed it. I mean, I didn't grow up in a wine area, but I did study French through high school and then majored in it at university. So I took a year off while I was doing that, rode a bike through France, and I saw a lot of wine regions and some of the best regions in the world. But what really captivated me was the people talking about wine and their reverence and their fondness for it. And when I got back to Australia, it was a pretty easy decision. I knew I wasn't going to be a good lawyer, but I was pretty keen to get into the wine side of things, and I moved to Adelaide and did the wine.
And Peter, Whitehaven Wines, they're 100% grown, crafted, and bottled in Marlborough. Can you give us a little bit more on the story on Whitehaven?
Sure. Whitehaven was started by Sue and Greg White, who left the corporate lifestyle and decided to sail around the Pacific for a while in about 1990. But to avoid the hurricane season, they sailed back to New Zealand, set anchor in the Marlborough Sounds, which are beautiful waterways about 20 minutes behind me here. They had some friends of the region who were establishing a vineyard, and it soon became apparent that perhaps this was the way to get their feet back on firm ground, and they created Whitehaven Winery back in 1994. Sue is still very much at the helm. Her daughter is part of the company now. Greg sadly passed away in 2007, but we have a range of wines in his honour now, which I hope to be very proud of.
You know, Peter, it's no secret Canadians love New Zealand wine. Primarily your Sauv Blanc as a nation is the big one in our country. But could you talk a little bit about the other Whitehaven wines you make? Because you've got such a diversity in your regions and in the grapes. Talk about what else Whitehaven is very proud of when it comes to their wines.
Sure. I mean, obviously Sauvignon is the big one, and we're very proud of it, and it's a great wine to have in patio season. But look, we do a lot more wines. We do Pinot Gris, we do Riesling, we do Gewürztraminer, Pinot Noir Rosé, and we do also a couple of Pinot Noir red wines. And I think Marlborough Pinot Noir is really in a great spot at the moment. Very approachable, medium-bodied, not too heavy, but lovely expressive aromatics and silky and seductive on the palate. Just beautiful drinking, and I hope you get to try one too.
And Peter, one of your Sauvignon Blancs has recently won a very prestigious award in France. Can you finish off and tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. There's an international Sauvignon Blanc competition called the Concours Mondial de Sauvignon Blanc, held in the traditional home of Sauvignon Blanc in the Loire Valley, France. Our two Sauvignons both won a gold award recently, and our Greg, which is in honor of Greg White, a single site wine, was named one of the revelation wines of that competition. It was awarded to only 8 Sauvignon Blancs from around the world. So that's an award we're very, very proud of.
Peter Jackson is the chief winemaker for Whitehaven in the Marlborough region of New Zealand. Peter, thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning. Of course, you're a day behind, or a day ahead and 5 hours behind, and you're heading into your winter. So we wish you a relaxing season.
And to find out a little bit more about Whitehaven, you can go to www.whitehaven.co.nz.
And Peter, why don't you step out of frame for just a second and show us that beautiful vineyard behind you?
Wow.
Good day. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, pal. Very nice.
Beautiful.
This health and wellness segment is sponsored by Enerex Osteocalmag with vitamin D, microencapsulated vitamin K2, and chelated boron for strong bones, and Enerex Freeflex with bamboo silica and collagen to help rebuild bones and damaged cartilage.
Well, we're back here on Broadway at the Divine Elements Naturopathic Clinic. Joining us once again, our good friends of ours, Dr. Sonia Jensen, Dr. Nick Jensen. Guys, thank you for joining us here again today at your clinic. Last time we talked to you, it was about improving your immune system. Today we're going to talk about bones. Dr. Sonia, I'll start with you. Tell us about our bones.
Yeah, well, we have 206 of them, and they make up our skeletal system. And you know, there's cells within there that are doing this amazing dance, the osteoclasts and osteoblasts. So it's breaking it down, it's building it up, and essentially within like 7 to 10 years, we have a whole entire new system.
Dr. Nick, I know a lot of people probably know this word, but may be confused as to how it ties in with bones, and that's osteoporosis, which causes fragility in bones. Talk a little bit about that if you could.
Yeah, I mean, the bone is such an intricate system, and it's like this spongy kind of cellular network. And over time, because of demineralization or changes in hormones, stress, or more of a sedentary lifestyle, we more quickly break down our bone, and so it becomes more porous and more, unfortunately, more flexible, but also more breakable, more fragile.
Okay, Dr. Sonia, next question is for you. It's a two-parter. Let's first talk about exercise and what exercise is best. And I have a feeling, I love jogging, but I have a feeling you're going to probably tell me that ain't good.
Mm-hmm. Well, exercise is so important when it comes to bone health because it's really creating that wanted stress. So it's breaking things down and forcing the bone to build back up.
Right.
And so the best exercise for that would be weight training, HIIT exercise, and I know you mentioned jogging, and we're in Vancouver and everybody loves to jog, and it's just too much impact on the body. So HIIT exercise and weight training would be the best for bone health.
And you use the word stress, but you mean stress in a good way, don't you?
Absolutely.
Or stimulus, I guess you could say, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah, good stress so that it actually tells the body that we have to adapt and create more bone so that we have more bone density and more strength.
Dr. Nick, staying with that, what reduces bone strength?
I mean, there's many things, but if we look at our diet, to name one, our dietary, our foods are grown in soil, it's massively depleted, so we're losing a lot of nutrition in the modern foods that we're eating. Unfortunately, a lot of us are eating more of an acidic or pro-inflammatory diet, which also leaches those nutrients out of our bone. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a factor of many different things, and it's unfortunate, but it is something really important we need to pay attention to.
Well, stay on that topic, and I'll stay with you. Let's talk about what foods can assist and help.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about this with our kids too. I mean, you want the dark leafy greens, you want as many vegetables as you can. There's some great things like bamboo shoots, which have high amounts of silica in them. Broccoli has a great amount of calcium. So we can look to our vegetables as a great source of these minerals, especially if they're grown in high quality soil.
And Dr. Sonia, even if we are eating really well, what type of supplements should we take because we're not getting enough calcium, magnesium?
Well, many people will assume they're drinking dairy or they're having these dairy products and they're getting enough calcium, but the reality is, like Dr. Nick said, our soil just doesn't have the minerals that it used to have, and we're actually not receiving a lot of that calcium from dairy products. So we need supplementation. So whether it's calcium, magnesium, we need vitamin K for absorption, we need vitamin D, we need boron, we need silica, because they all, again, they do a really great dance together to create more flexibility and absorption.
Dr. Nick, talk a little bit about other factors that contribute here. And I know a lot of people are going to be checking off the list, and I'm one of them, but give us your thoughts on that.
I mean, we mentioned dietary influences, but a lot of us, I mean, we're still a culture where unfortunately there's still people smoking. We live in a sedentary culture for the most part with our busy lives where we're going from, you know, our car to our desk to wherever else, and we're constantly in an environment that's not allowing for nourishment and movement and all that flexibility that we need in order to build the strength in our bones.
People I can see at home probably saying, this is all great enough. There's so much information to take in. I'll stick with you, Dr. Nick, and then move over to Dr. Sonia. Talk a bit about where can people begin to look after themselves in this category?
Well, I mean, we're built to move. You know, we've got 4 limbs, they're constantly moving in our space, but are we actually applying the right strategies, the right stresses on the body to start to begin that process of regeneration? So movements, I think that's the most important place to start.
You get the last word, Dr. Sonia?
Yeah, nourishment. So look to your food, eat your leafy greens like Dr. Nick was saying, and really take that in and use supplementation to optimize the absorption.
Guys, a pleasure as always. Always like having you on our show, and we appreciate you doing social distancing with us here as we continue along. It's Dr. Sonia Jensen, Dr. Nick Jensen. It is Divine Elements Naturopathic Clinic here on Broadway. More information, divineelements.ca, and they are part of the latest in our health and wellness segment here on Our City Tonight.
This health and wellness segment was sponsored by NRX OsteoCalMag with vitamin D, microencapsulated vitamin K2, and chelated boron for strong bones, and NRX FreeFlex with bamboo silica and collagen to help rebuild bones and damaged cartilage.
Well, it's time for another Our City Tonight Inside Business segment. We have Sandy Martin. She is the partner and COO of Spring Financial Planning. Now, this is a unique firm. They specialize in personal financial planning, retirement income, family and private business planning, as well as portfolio and cash flow audits. Welcome, Sandy. I'm going to jump right in and say, how did Spring Plans come about?
Oh, well, this is sort of the result of a marriage between 2 independent practices. My partner, Julia Chung, and I, back in 2014, just wanted to trade notes about what are you doing in your financial planning practice, and let's share. And then we joined with our current other partner, Kristen Merriman. So she does all the marketing. She makes us look like cool people and not the nerds we really are. There's not as much spreadsheets when Kristen's around. And then we started adding other people to our team. So since 2018, we've added 3 new cash flow specialists, portfolio audit specialists. So we've got Daryl Brown and Catherine Mandelkorn and Karen Richardson. We're just a bunch of nerds who like money, but we have a good time.
Well, I know some of the players, I shouldn't use that word, some of the key people in your firm, and they're delightful and they're very approachable. So I'm going to lead into that. What makes Spring Plans different from other financial planning firms?
Well, one of the things that we think is really, really important is that it's the client's definition of success that matters. I know in financial planning, there is a mathematically correct answer sometimes, depending on the assumptions that you make. And that's important. It's important to do kind of the technical math work. But it doesn't really matter a lot if the client doesn't connect with what's important to them, so their values. So what we do at Spring is make sure that they're aware of the financial optimization stuff, but they understand what that means for when they turn around and look at their own life and what's important to them. We like to call it your life well spent. Haha, money puns. The other thing that's important about us is that we don't accept compensation of any kind, like referral fees, or we don't sell products. So our clients are the only people who are paying us, and they're the only people whose opinion matters to us, which I think is different in the financial planning industry to date.
Well, it certainly is, and you make it kind of user-friendly. People are not afraid to be addressing their financial concerns with you. Now, that leads me again to what kind of concerns do you address for clients, certainly during this current economic uncertainty?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have questions like, is this something that's so totally off the map that we didn't include it in our plan in the first place? And for most people, now, I don't want to say that we knew what was coming. I don't mean that at all. But uncertainty is a fact of life, and we always want to include that in the planning process. So our clients, although we didn't say, hey, watch out in March of 2020, there's going to be something big happen. But all of them have known ever since they've worked with us that we do what we can with the information that's available, and then we adjust when kind of life throws us. I don't even want to say curveball. This is worse. This is not a curveball. And then, of course, people have very specific questions about the government supports that are available, how they should get through this. We do find that our role is to make sure clients know that your job is not necessarily to get ahead through all this. It's just to hang on. And then we can recalibrate at the end, as it is with life, really.
That's wonderful advice. I guess it kind of leads into how is Spring Plans uniquely positioned to work with Canadians during this uncertainty?
Yeah. I mean, the lovely thing is I'm a hardcore introvert, so I designed my whole business so that I never actually have to meet people in person already. But our whole team is virtual. We have planners and administrative staff, paraplanners all across the country. And so we already had systems in place to meet with clients virtually, to run a team of lots of different people and lots of different systems when we can't just kind of sit beside each other and see what everybody is up to. So we didn't have to learn that. A lot of companies have done a really great job of learning that really quick, but we got to start a bit ahead of the curve because we already knew how to do the digital delivery. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, how do clients, potential customers, find out more about you?
I mean, everywhere that we can have a profile, we're Spring Plans. So, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all those places, you can find us at Spring Plans. And actually, our website is the same, springplans.ca. So that's the best place to come and find us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for this edition of Inside Business with our City Tonight. We have Sandy Martin with Spring Financial Planning. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Well, we're back here at Hubcast Studios where we began the show, but it's time to wrap up this show.
And before we go, I just want to remind you to visit us on all our social media at Our City Tonight on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as you can view all our past episodes on our YouTube channel.
And she's Lita Leapins. I'm Jim Gordon. We're going to leave you now with the latest single, once again, from country music star Chris Buck. See you next time.
Sponsorship for the Health and Wellness segment is provided by Enerex Botanicals Limited.
Inside Real Estate segments are brought to you by Team Kerr, real estate advice for life.
Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877.
Youngblood Mineral Cosmetics provided by Soluzione Spa Products.
Caught in the past, you just can't leave behind. Well, the hardest truth is you can't go back. Yeah, we always want